May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and on this Mindful Monday, Dr. Corey Gonzalez, clinical psychologist, joins us to talk more about an important topic, of course, regarding mental health. We're specifically this morning talking about mental health in men. Dr. Gonzalez, thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Alex.
I love that we're talking about this because, as you were mentioning, you were talking about this earlier, mental health affects everyone differently. And, of course, it affects people differently, but let's talk about how it affects men. And you've said mental health and like how we can sometimes cope with different struggles and so forth. It is different when you look at it from men and women.
Yes, and the research shows that men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than females. At the same time, females are more likely to be diagnosed with depression or a mood disorder.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, there's a few things. One of them, we're not catching it because it looks different for men. Another thing, we're not talking about it. Men aren't speaking up about it and seeking help. And thirdly, we have a lot of generational and stigmas, cultural stigmas too, about being vulnerable and asking for help for men.
Is there kind of like this stigma that is surrounded by men's mental health, like can't really talk about it?
It's showing a weakness,
yeah.
Being vulnerable. And you look at different past generations, Alex, you see that there's real stigmas and taboos about that.
Right.
So it can manifest itself very differently. Women a lot of times get, typical DSM-5 stuff, apathy, hopeless, sleep disturbance, tearfulness and so forth. They may turn to Haagen-Dazs or retail therapy, talking to their friends. Yeah. It's more natural. Men don't tend to do that. They don't have as much emotional intelligence and reach out. And sometimes they can act out in a very destructive way.
So let's talk about this and how it can manifest itself. So there are signs that we can be aware of, whether it's ourselves or others, to watch out for. What do we need to be looking out for? And because it comes out in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yes, it does, Alex. We need to be aware of this because men are getting themselves in a lot of trouble, can lead to hopelessness and suicide. So aggression. A lot of times men, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. They get aggressive. Underneath all anger is pain. Men need to learn how to express their pain appropriately. When they act out in aggression, it can be very destructive. Fights, breakups, end up in jail. Also, they tend to act out with high-risk behaviors. Alcohol, to try to numb their pain. Sex, they tend to act out sexually to get some kind of dopamine or rewards. Gambling, things like that. Escapism. Men tend to go to work, become workaholics because they feel value there. Or sports, where they kind of feel that camaraderie or get plugged into a simpler time in their life. So men cope with this stuff differently, and we need to be aware of it, because if you've got depression and you end up doing something that's destructive, and then now you've lost your social support, you've got a divorce, or you're in jail, or you lost your job, it can really compound these things and exacerbate the depression and lead to hopelessness.
Are there people who could be impacted by this more than others? I mean, I'm thinking, I'm just looking at different lifestyles, different careers and so forth. Are there people men specifically, are there men that could be impacted by this more than others?
Well, regarding suicide, yes.
Okay.
And if we see men that have problems with impulse control, that have a history of this or have the means to do these things, or recently lost a job, or recently had a divorce or a breakup, it can make us much more prone to this stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the things that we can do, the skills that we can to learn, the skills that we can pick up and learn to cope with these things.
Well, first of all, our mental health, we need to pick up on this, detect this, our healthcare providers, right? Men need to speak up more and seek help. We need to get more emotional intelligence, high EQ. And we need to learn skills to help with our thoughts, cognitive restructuring, behavioral techniques, meditation, exercise, journaling, and I like to say DOSE. It's an acronym, Alex. It stands for dopamine, which is our rewards chemical. We get that from listening to music, finishing a task, getting a good night's sleep. Oxytocin is a love hormone, and we get that from hugs, from being kind, from our animals, from our loved ones, our children. S is serotonin, the mood elevating one. We get that from sunshine, we get that from exercising, dancing, and E is for endorphins. It's a natural painkiller. We get that from laughter. We get that from yoga, meditation, and exercise. So we need to be aware that we can dose ourselves every day, create these chemicals that keep us hearty and healthy from our mental health perspective.
You talk about some of these things too. Do they have to be big, or can they be small? Like you talk about, for example, just even listening to music. It seems so simple, but does it have a great impact overall?
Huge. It changes our perception.
Just like these little things that we can do.
Oh, yeah. Anyone can do these things. They're free. And so
Yeah.
exercising, right? Try to use more mindfulness techniques or more gratitude, emphasizing the things we have, not what we don't have. Focus on what we can control versus what we can't control. Journaling is free. Getting things out, not holding things in. There's lots of things we can do. Talk to our friends. Get out there and reach out a little bit if we're struggling. Women tend to do that better than us, and we need to learn how to do this. Becoming emotionally intelligent is very important. We got to start doing it.
Some simple things that we can do to overall boost our mental health, especially in men. Dr. Gonzalez, thanks so much for talking about this.
Always a
Do
pleasure,
appreciate
Alex.
it.